Welcome to the next part of our series about AI-ready projects. And today we'll speak about the context. It's important to know what types of context you can give to your AI agents or AI that interacts with your project, with your code base, so it has the best knowledge to make the right decisions. And let's start with this. So why the context matters is, of course, it's the crucial information for the agent, and without it, it will not know more details to make the best decision, as I just said before. The point is, let's say you are hiring someone, right? And then they come to you and you just say, okay, so implement relocation process, and for them it makes zero sense. Like what is relocation process, how to implement it, for what people, for what logic, for whoever, right? So you have so many questions. So I just randomly picked this, and I have even questions about it. So this is a bad way to go into it. So many businesses, many developers go from zero to, okay, give me something, right? They are asking, okay, implement this. And then they're like, no, okay, let's do this. And then, oh no, actually should be this way. And this should be this way. So there is a lot of this going back and forth. And this is not the good approach. And this is actually where people, any developers, any business should shift. In many places, it is still the work, what you do is more relevant for coding, for development of something, where with AI it should shift to planning. So the more you plan, the more you invest into clear structure of what needs to be done. This can then go seamlessly in with AI agents developed in a matter of weeks. So people should shift more to this topic, right? So better context leads to more precise, relevant, and efficient AI assistance, as I wrote here. So let's look at the types of the context that you can have. And from the overview, let's say we have the AI agent, and we go into different parts. So of course you have agent-specific knowledge, that if you have multiple AI agents, you are only passing this information to specific one, the specialization, let's say. The easiest way, and I think not the most productive, but the easy comparison would be a developer, a front-end developer and a back-end developer for the same project. And back-end developer will know specific information about the back-end side, plus how to communicate with the front end, or like the specification between each other, right? So if you have, for example, Open API, you can say, okay, you can read the Open API, or you can define the Open API that the front end will use. So stuff like this. So then we're going into the core context, which is the business context, and the business context would be a why we're implementing the relocation engine, the relocation logic, why we are creating geolocation services, what will happen if we implement it, what is happening if something is wrong. We'll go into it more. The technical, the how, so how the project works. Integration is with what, so you have a project, how it interacts with something else, right? And then the history or the evolution. So let's dive into each of them. And the first one, I think, is of course technical. And technical knowledge is all about the project itself. So how to start it, how to build the project, how to maybe deploy it, the naming of Git is done, how the architecture is set up, and many different things. You can also add here topics like, okay, this project sadly uses really outdated something, and to start it, you only need to do it this way. You need to run this command. You need to inject something into the Docker image in order to run it, right? So how to maintain it and create it is with, of course, the easiest I would say is to use a Claude, for example. In Claude you have Claude Code, you have /init, and it will do something for you. And or you can ask in general the other agents to create some overview how they see it. But the most important part is, of course, you need to it's a live conversation, so you are the one who knows everything about the project. So you can think that some new developer that joined, you ask them, okay, can you create me an overview, a technical overview of the project? And they should be able to give you something, but in their vision, they don't know many things about it. They see something, they assume a lot of stuff, and this is your work to guide them to the right overview. So you will have to go back and forth. Okay, this part is actually needs to be this way, and we're not following the standards, or many different things. But you need to still, communicate, and the most important part is to keep it up to date and always have it fresh. Why? Because this is the core of the project that you will pass to all of the agents that work with it, the reviewers, the review agents, the whatever it will be. Even the hotfix, let's say you will have an agent that when there is a fire on production, it will kick in, and then it sees some errors from the service. What is the first action? It needs to understand, what is this? Is it in Java or some other stuff, right? So technical context, super important. The next one is kind of in between. It's not strictly technical, but it's also not a business or something else. It also answers kind of how and why to some degree. So it's integration. So your project most likely doesn't live in a black box, right? So it's not just one thing. It probably interacts, especially in the big companies, it probably interacts with many different other services through Kafka, through streaming, through API, something, right? And if you just put it as a black box and you test it and you give AI to just develop, what most likely will happen, it will just break the contracts because it was easier to just, okay, we will do it this way. I will redo the endpoints. They will be now not slash lead. It will be slash leads, for example. Just put the proper naming, let's say, because it doesn't know who is using it, if there is any. So it assumes that maybe it will assume it's just the default, so it's just a new project, whatever. So integration context will answer like questions like, okay, this service is using and they're passing this and this information, these cases. And it's basically a really important thing. And how to maintain it is also similar. The only thing what you can do is you can give the one way I was doing it is you can create an overview of one service and then overview of another. Then you can also ask the contact points from one, or communication points you can describe from one project from another, and then feed it into one. And then let's say for project A, you will pass more information about project A with the communication with project B and stuff like this. But with Cloud Code, for example, you can also just say, hey, this is the folder for project A, here's the folder for project B, and then just do the magic, just give me, create this integration information between them. So it's really powerful, especially in cases where you have like separate front end or something like this. It's really important to keep business context. So this is the next point, and this is before we were answering what and how, and this is why. So of course many things you can do, but there is a business decision behind it. And yeah, it's basically the overview of a project, what it accomplishes, how it brings the value for people, how it makes money, many things. So, and of course, things like which users are we actually targeting, and many things like this. And this is the most hardest one to define to some degree, because I mean, this is purely mostly manual. So AI doesn't bring a business knowledge, doesn't know about it, so it cannot really generate it for you. One way I saw it working sometimes is recording of the meetings. So you start a new project, you record a lot of the meetings on it, you pass it through, let's say, Gemini with big context. You can have some overview of it from all of the meetings, and then you can also go back and forth about this topic. What I was also doing is you start a conversation with an AI, like ChatGPT, let's say, and then you're brainstorming the idea, you're expanding, you're trying to do more stuff, and then afterwards, when you aligned already, or it suggests you exactly what you want, you can ask it for the business context. This is part one, of course, and then you also need to give more information about the project itself and how it will, interact with the business. So, and the last one is the history, and it kind of a good thing to have for AI to know what was happening with a project. It's not always helpful, but in some cases it might be useful, so I would put them maybe optional. But it's not a Git log unless you do it really well with the log history. It may be also AI generated on every change that you do. You can keep a change log, let's say, but I would keep it more business oriented to have it, we did this and this, and it should now allow users to do this and this. That might be more useful. And the cases could be integration or something, so it knows that you should not really remove something because it's still used, things like this. So, and it's good to have, especially if you're not, if it's not harmful. Of course, it should not be a large thing. It can be smaller, and you can try to fit it into the Git log history. And the last one that we also started with is the agent-specific context. And what I'm doing is, again, you can have multiple agents working on different stuff in your repository, and the good practice, which you will also see in other AI-ready projects videos in a series, is to have a feature-oriented content, whatever it is. Context, agents, code base, many things. It all evolves around the feature. And I would say it's also good to have agent-specific context for them. So if you define an agent for a specific feature, like billing, for example, you can have special context specifically for them that they will use to enrich information and do better decisions on the output. So another example is like database refactoring, not really, I would say good example, but can also be if you have specifically some migrations or fixes that you need to commonly do, you can define a database refactoring agent, and it will have specific information how to do migrations, how the naming should be, stuff like this. And then UI agent, you can have the special guidelines for the coloring, for example, because if it's generic one, you will always need to say, okay, you need to keep this style or something like this. And then if you do with the, let's say, UI agent, you will have agent specific context. Hey, this is the coloring that we have. this is how we do it. So yeah, that's actually it, and I hope this will give you at least the foundation for the next steps, to know which context, which information you need to gather, how to store it as well. And yeah, this we will go into the documentation exactly on this point in the next video. All right, I'll see you in the next one, and thank you.